Joining me now is Natalie Winters, co-host of Steve Bannon's War Room. Natalie, it's always terrific to see you, but wow, we've got cover-ups left, right and centre, or so it would appear. Let's kick off with this extraordinary story. Yesterday, so we talked a lot about the cover-up of Joe Biden, his mental decline, his health, all for the 4 years. Who was actually running the White House? I guess we'll find out one day. But yesterday, Kevin O'Connor, who was Joe Biden's doctor, the one who kept reassuring us all was fine, all was dandy, no problem with old Joe, he's rocking along. Turns out he went before Congress and he pleaded the fifth when he was asked about the cover-up, or was there any cover-up, or was anybody telling him what to say? Have a listen, Natalie.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer.
Did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer.
Natalie, we've all watched enough American cop shows to know that pleading the fifth means, oops, I'm as good as guilty. What did you make of it, Natalie?
Well, shouldn't those be rather easy questions to answer, right? I feel like this is one of those moments where it's both totally unbelievable that we're even at a moment like this, but it's also totally believable, I think, for two reasons. One, the Democrats lie. They love having weak presidents because the deep state, right, these unelected bureaucrats can sort of take them over, treat them like listless vessels and implement their agenda. But also, I don't even really blame Kevin O'Connor. You know why? Because what are congressional Republicans going to do about it time and time again, whether it's witnesses like him, people involved in the Hunter Biden affair, people involved in the government weaponization committee? They've gotten away scot-free, and the chairman of the committee goes and writes a book and then pumps it and tries to profit off of it. So I almost understand why the guy's feeling like he can act like this without repercussions. But I also think it's important to remember that while there's so much focus, right, on the mental decline of Joe Biden, make no mistake, it's equally concerning that all of the people around him were very well aware, they're very in their right minds, and they intentionally set out to destroy the United States by implementing policies that wrecked us, whether immigration, fiscally, or on the international stage. So there's a lot of layers here, and it's hard to unpack, but as an American, it's embarrassing to watch that.
Now, Natalie, I've been dying all week, if that's the right word, to get your take on the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, cover-up, non-event. What is it? I mean, let's have a listen. First of all, so suddenly, after months and months, we're told, no, actually nothing to see. No, it was all dandy. It was all fine. Maybe not. I want to hear your opinion. But here's Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who's not entirely convinced that it was suicide. Have a listen.
He said, you know it's suicide when you see it. You know, that's basically what he said. So the questions that popped into my mind was, first of all, number one, how many suicides has he seen? Number one. Two, is he a forensic pathologist? Dr. Roman, who was a city pathologist who did the autopsy, she came out of the autopsy and said she couldn't call it a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide. When Kash Patel came out with that statement, I laughed at how stupid it was.
So, Natalie, give us your take on the entire week of Jeffrey Epstein. Did he commit suicide? Didn't he? What about all the men who were supposedly involved on the list, Epstein's list? Take it away.
Sure. Well, I think the release of this information only adds to the sort of conspiratorial nature and frankly, outright, I think we can call it a debacle, especially coming from DOJ and the FBI, right? This was an undated, unsigned memo that they released on a holiday weekend through a sort of a legacy media outlet, Axios, and they hoped that it would just kind of go away. But because MAGA is founded in the idea that accountability, right, is rooted in actual prison sentences for people who have committed crimes, not these sort of strongly worded letters, our base was rightfully outraged and upset. And I've been saying as much. I think a lot of even some of President Trump's strongest supporters didn't really take the line that he was pushing during his cabinet meeting that, Americans should just move on and not be obsessed with it. It is patently obvious that for a man who had so much connection with both domestic political figures, foreign political figures, also with the CIA, whether it was business deals, working with officials there. I mean, for decades, you're talking about a man who came very, very close, if not essentially was inside the inner circle of the inner workings of the American political, financial, Hollywood, you name it, elite, that not 1 ounce of documentation, not one document exists. They're just going to say, oops, there's nothing to see here, move on. I think this might be the largest misread of the MAGA base. And I think that this needs to be seriously rectified, because right now, I'm not seeing any difference in the Trump administration's response to the Epstein list and that of Joe Biden and that of Barack Obama, et cetera, and that's extremely concerning.
Unbelievable story, Natalie. I just want to know where Jeffrey Epstein got all his money from. But anyway, another extraordinary story. The Democrats are blaming Donald Trump for the Texas floods. Here's Carolyn Levitt.
Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning.
So there's Carolyn Levitt there at the White House. Natalie, Donald Trump to blame for the floods now.
It's absolutely insane. Donald Trump and Doge, right? And I guess anyone who voted for Trump somehow shares a compartmentalized version of the blame. Look, let's be frank. The primary victims of this flood are not people that I think Democrats really have a lot of compassion or sympathy for. We saw as much. We saw government officials mocking this camp because it catered, as they said, to white Christian girls. They tried to make it racial. It's absolutely disgusting. And frankly, if you actually drill down, you could actually see that the National Weather Service was actually overstaffed. This really was an issue of technology and needing to modernize the government. And frankly, I think it drives the point home that instead of sending millions of dollars to every corner of the earth, whether it's to Ukraine for flood response and emergency management services, or I don't know, to help refugees plow them into the country, every corner of this country, we should be investing at home. So counties that live in very dangerous and high-risk flood areas actually have usable and reasonable alert systems instead of prioritizing Ukraine over Texans. I pray for Texans.
And Natalie, you left out there the whatever it was, transgender operas in Colombia or whatever other nonsense it was. Always great to chat to you.
Too many to count.
Exactly. Natalie Winters, thanks so much.